Adriana, is he a Hall of Famer, and why or why not?
He better be.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, I know there's
if you said no to that, by the way, and I'm very excited to hear the rest of your take. If you said no to that, I would have canceled the channel right now. I would have left this channel. You better be saying yes to that, but go ahead.
Well, and I'm like, any Giants fan that argues against that is just insane. But when you look at the span of his career, and then you of course look at what Tom Brady did, I mean, when you stack up, especially that 18-0 team, what would have been against the Giants team, like, it's just, they were so different. This 9-7 team that obviously didn't have the talent that the Patriots had, and they go and they beat them in the Super Bowl. He's the only quarterback to ever beat Tom Brady twice. Tom Brady is going to go down as the best quarterback that's ever played. I think that you really have to weigh that as part of it. And for anyone whose argument is that his career wins are at 500, I think that's total BS. We're talking about a team sport. And yes, the quarterback is the most important position. But at the end of the day, they can't throw the ball, catch the ball, get sacks, make stops, kick field goals. It's a team sport. So I think that it shouldn't be weighed so heavily, the career wins, and everyone being like, oh, well, he's only 500. He has some pretty impressive stats. He's in the top 10 for a lot of things in the NFL. And he's a 2-time Super Bowl MVP, which there are not many quarterbacks who can make that claim to fame. So, I think it's no question. I think he should be first ballot. I don't know if he will be, but I hope that he is.
Anthony, is he a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Absolutely. I think it's an easy call. And I think the point that Adriana just made was really interesting about his career 500 record. And I quickly did a Google search of it. There are 5 quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame right now with a record of 500 or below. So if that's something that people are going to use against Eli Manning, I think it's a bad argument, because there are several Hall of Famers who made it in with a 500 or below record, and he is right at 500. And also, I mean, the longevity of his career in and of itself, I think, is one of his most impressive traits and arguments that he has to make it to the Hall of Fame. We look around the NFL every single year, we see season-ending injuries to top stars, and Eli Manning somehow went through unscathed. And it's not like he didn't play through injuries. I mean, he did. I actually saw a clip of him recently talking about a separated shoulder that he played through. I think he suffered in like week 13 or something. Played through the rest of the year, doesn't care. And that matters, the ability to stay on the field and play for that long. That is going to hurt your win-loss record in some respects, especially if you're on a bad team, but you're still out there and you're still playing, and that's impressive. His career postseason record is great. All of the records that he set in the postseason are tremendous. And of course, his battles with Tom Brady that he came out on top of. So Eli Manning, I think, is one of the best New York Giants players of all time. And if he doesn't make it to the first ballot of Hall of Fame, I will be rioting tomorrow night.
There you go. Chris, I know your take, but go ahead, give it to him.
I don't know if he's going to get in first ballot. I think he should. I don't know if he will, just because if you look at the history of the quarterback position, a lot of the ones that are in there, it took them a couple of times around to get in. So we'll see. I'm excited to see if he does get in. I think he should. There's not a whole lot for me to add. I mean, I've talked about it extensively throughout my time on YouTube. He's my favorite athlete of all time. He absolutely is a Hall of Famer. And a lot of people, you get these false narratives, like Anthony, the 500 record. Warren Moon had a 500 record. Joe Namath, I would imagine, probably had a below 500 record. There are plenty of quarterbacks that you could say that about. Troy Aikman, great record, but as Bad Dog always says, he only had one season his entire career where he threw over 20 touchdowns because he had the greatest supporting cast in the history of the NFL. Eli Manning in 2011, I will say it till the day I die, is one of the greatest single seasons I've ever seen a quarterback have in the NFL. Now, people look at the stats, they'll say, 29 touchdowns, 16 picks. How good was he really? They had the worst rushing attack in the entire league that year. They were dead last in rushing offense. The regular season defense was bottom 5 because they had a lot of injuries that year. They turned it up in the playoffs. But he carried that team to the playoffs that year. He beat the Patriots in Foxborough in the regular season. I was at the Packer game where they lost 38-35, where he was incredible in that game. I think he threw 4 or 5 touchdowns. He, start to finish that year, he had the most comeback wins, I think, in a single season at the time, or fourth quarter comebacks, whatever it was, in a regular season in the history of the NFL. He was money that year. And in the playoffs, I mean, just look at it. Just look at the guys that he slayed. Everybody talks about Brady, rightfully so, knocked him off twice. He also knocked off Brett Favre in Lambeau Field, a place where he never lost in the playoffs for the most part throughout the entirety of his career. Like, that was unheard of. Eli Manning went into there in negative 30-degree weather, knocked him off, knocked off Aaron Rodgers when he had a 15-1 football team, knocked off Tony Romo when the Cowboys were 13-3 that year and had a far superior roster, went into Dallas and knocked them off. I mean, it speaks for itself. And yes, you could say he was never elite outside of the 2011 season because he certainly was that year. That's all well and good, but he compiled stats, top 10 all time in touchdown passes when he retired, top 10 in a variety of things, like Adriana said. There's really, in my opinion, there's not a legitimate argument to keep him out. People say that the Manning name is going to help him get in. I actually view it from the opposite stance. I think the Manning name is what may make it more challenging for him to get in, because I think his entire career, he was always unfairly compared to Peyton Manning. If his name was Eli Smith and he played for the New York Giants in this market and knocked off Tom Brady twice, there wouldn't even be a debate. People would say, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer. And one of the most amazing things to me about the New York Giants and Eli Manning, and not Eli Manning specifically, the New York Giants, somebody said it to me on Twitter. I couldn't believe it. Since the days of the 80s with, obviously LT and all, the Giants have only had 3 Hall of Famers during that entire span, I believe. LT, Michael Strand, and I'm forgetting somebody. If Eli Manning, Derek Carson, if Eli Manning doesn't get in, that would mean that the Giants had no Hall of Famers that played for both of those Super Bowl teams. Of course, Strand played for one of them. He's a Hall of Famer. He better get in. It would be a travesty if he didn't.
Eli is a Hall of Famer. I don't care. People are like, he didn't make any all-pro teams. It's because you have to be the best. And he played against Aaron Rodgers. He played Tom Brady. Like, the all-pro is the entire league. Nobody's beating Tom Brady. Nobody's beating Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. They were definitely the class at that time. That doesn't make Eli Manning less of a player. And again, you talk about the players that he knocked off. You look at that 2011 season in general. Remember the game in Dallas? They were down 34-22 with 5 minutes ago, and he drove back. We lose that game. We missed the playoffs. He didn't allow it to happen. He went down there, he scored 2 touchdowns. We beat Dallas on a blocked field goal, and then the rest is history. Eli Manning is one of a handful of quarterbacks to win 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Every other quarterback that's won multiple Super Bowl MVPs is in the Hall of Fame. There's no way you keep Eli Manning out of the Hall of Fame. People want to.
What's that list, Bad Dog? It's Pat Mahomes now. It's Tom Brady. It's Eli Manning.
Joe Montana. Terry Bradshaw. Bart Starr.
That's it, right?
Bart Starr did it too. The first 2 Super Bowls. They're all in the Hall of Fame. And Brady and Mahomes are definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame without question. I hate that. Oh, look at his record. Look at this. Because like Anthony said, like Adriana said, I understand it's a quarterback-driven league. It always has been. They're the most important position. They handle the ball every time on offense, but they can't play defense. They can't kick field goals. They can't make tackles. It's not what they're asked to do. When the chips were down and the Giants had to have it, Eli was always there. Even when he began his career, he struggled at the beginning of his career. You could always count him to come back and win football games. That is something that is not taught, man. There's a lot of great players. You look at Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers won 1 Super Bowl his entire career. Okay, Brett Favre won 1 Super Bowl his entire career. There's a lot of quarterbacks that don't win.
Marino never won one.
Who's that?
Dan Marino never won one.
Right. There's a lot of great quarterbacks that never won one. So again, the team record thing, I hate that. And that's really just what detractors want to say. Just haters want to say, oh, he was only a 500 quarterback. Oh, he was never an all-pro quarterback. Well, that just tells me you didn't watch the game. Because to Anthony's point, the guy never missed a game due to injury at all. He was tough as nails. I'll always look back at the 2011 NFC Championship game as the defining moment in his career, playing against one of the best defenses in the league, constantly getting up off the ground, picking the turf out of his helmet, throwing for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, and leading us to another Super Bowl. And then the throw he made to Mario Manningham in the first Super Bowl, the catch was amazing. It was amazing Eli got out of it. The catch was impressive. The throw by Eli to Manningham, you will not find a better throw anywhere.
Ever.
It's one of the greatest throws in the history of the Super Bowl.